Dana Jacobson of CBS Sports Network here with us in New York, along with one of the women you saw in that piece, SportsCenter reporter, ESPNW columnist, and radio host, Sarah Spain. Great to have you both here. And Sarah, I mean, again, I almost feel like on behalf of our gender, and certainly the gender that uses social media, I almost need to apologize to you. But this is a fascinating campaign. How did it come about?
Yeah, I first got a message from Brad Burke, who is the guy behind Just Not Sports, who first thought of the idea. He's actually a friend of my fiance from a long time ago, and he pitched it to me, and I thought to myself, you know, maybe it'll make a little noise because people aren't as aware of the abuse that we get as we are, but I had no idea it would blow up like this, and I think that speaks to the fact that I kind of take it for granted now. I'm so used to getting these kind of comments that they kind of just bounce right off me, but the way that he said he wanted to film it and how he wanted to make people look at it differently by making people actually verbalize the comments, I knew it was gonna strike a chord and get people talking, and it's more so than I ever could have imagined. And
it has been a universal thing. I think a lot of people have talked about social media for many years now, Dana, this idea that, you know, would you say that to the person if they were standing right there in front of you? But again, I just saw this even as a colleague.
Right.
This is where our lives as colleagues doing the same exact thing
vastly different.
Just absolutely diverge.
You know, I said to you earlier, how many comments do you get a day on how good you look or how you look after you did this great interview, and it doesn't happen? And I commend Sarah and Julie for taking those comments. I was like head shaking like this as Sarah was just talking. Because it's true. We see so many of them, and I'm not saying everyone every day. I asked some of my colleagues. Some might get 2 a week. And some of us get more, and probably the more opinion we put out there, we get some of those comments. And I think you become immune to it.
We're taking a look right now. This is one that you provided us, and you'll notice no avatar. And you can see this. You guys can all read at home. Who the F is Dana Jacobson? Get the F off of SportsCenter. I love women, but they don't know S about sports.
And by the way, that's tame in comparison to what Sarah and Julie were reading. When I went through mine and tried to find them, I block and mute people when it gets to that offensive level and had a harder time finding some. But I realized the worst of mine, I think maybe one achieved that level. And we're not sitting here whining saying, oh, don't pick on us and you can't comment on how we look, but it's a broader conversation of how we treat people. Right. And that as women in this industry, we're doing a job. We're not putting ourselves out there saying, I'm a woman here, look at me because I'm a woman. We're saying, I'm a sports reporter, I'm covering this event, look at this event. And when the comments that come in are as hateful and spiteful like that, it just makes me wonder who thinks it's okay to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I was instantly transported to some of our colleagues who had to fight essentially for the right to be in locker rooms after games and to see.
That feels like nothing now in comparison to this.
It feels like prehistoric times.
And Sarah knows this. You read these comments, and a lot of them seem almost harmless in you look nice today, but time and time again, when that's the comment, you have to wonder, are we saying that the message about women in sports should be about appearance and how they look and not about the work that they're doing even? And that's a different line of tweets than what Sarah and Julie were reading here.
And Sarah, in watching these men struggle to read just the tweets in 140 characters or fewer, you were actually saying some of the words for them. They were so uncomfortable to say them in front of you. At the end of Dana's piece, you addressed a question that has kind of been buried here. What should Twitter and other social media companies be doing about this, do you think?
Yeah, it's not just an issue for female sports reporters. I've had a lot of people say everybody has issues, and that's part of the problem. If you are somebody on Twitter, particularly a public person, you're likely getting harassed. And yes, the kinds of comments that women get are vastly different for the most part than the kinds of comments that male reporters or celebrities might get, but it's still harassment. And in the end, it's a conversation about why we're willing to defend and accept the kind of hatred and vitriol that's out there versus saying, let's try to fix it. And I think, Twitter, there's a lot of creative ways. Let's say you're using some sort of identification in order to sign up the way that they use for Facebook. That makes it harder for one person to create 30 accounts. Let's say if you have fewer than 15 tweets, people can't see them yet. I mean, I know you could just fire off a bunch in a row, but there's a way of looking at the words that are being used, of the account that's being created, how quickly it's being created, does it need to be verified at all? Because if it doesn't, then you can instantly create a new account as soon as you're blocked and get right back at it. And for someone like me, I mean, you know me, I'm extremely lighthearted and sarcastic. I have a really thick skin. It's not about me saying I can't be criticized. It's about, can I do my job? Very much of it occurs on social media. If I can't do my job because I'm slogging through countless messages that are threatening or just beyond the pale, that's not something we should just say, oh, well, it's the internet and people are jerks. We should say, how do we fix this?
It's where we transact our business. Sarah, we're going to lose you quickly, but I do want to hear, I mean, I know I reached out to you. I know I saw our messages back and forth. I have a couple daughters, and I have loved how you and Dana and your colleagues have made the world and my world a better place for them. I wonder, what did you hear, especially from your male colleagues yesterday?
Yeah, a lot of the same. And I have to say, it is interesting. Guys often say, this made me think of my daughters. This made me think of my sisters. Well, every guy's got a mom, too. So if you don't have sisters or a daughter or a girlfriend or a wife, how about just thinking that everybody's a human being, male or female? And how about thinking about the mom that made you? I just think it's something that a lot of people needed to see visually, people struggling to say those things, to remember that the words online are very much the same as the words you would say to someone's face. It's just, you have to actually own it when you do it, and not anonymously.
Dana, I mean, you're a lot of head shaking over
Same thing.
here.
I mean, would you say those words to your mom? And even some of the male colleagues that I was talking with, it was, I've gotten comments like that, 2 of them. Over the span of 5 years being on Twitter, I can't imagine getting those daily or twice a week or even a couple times a month. Like it is the regular occurrence. And I think it's, again, a broader thing of, can we be a little bit nicer to people? If you wouldn't say it to my face, why is that okay to say it on Twitter? Sarah, I'm with you. Thick skin, I deal with a lot of things and I'm fine with it. But the 100th one, when you've gotten 100 of them, somehow it gets under your skin, and it's not a good message that we're sending to anyone.
And Sarah, it was a great point you make that, you know, I've seen when this has been addressed in different ways. A lot of people say, well, then get off Twitter. Then just
That's part of
don't
doing your job.
Like,
Get
don't
a new
take it so
job.
seriously. But that's it, right? That we have now, Twitter has gone from a fad, a niche, to what it is now. It is the place where we transact our business.
You post your stories, Sarah, I'm sure.
Right.
You comment, you interact with
it's like
people
a sports bar and the front of a newspaper where you put your headlines, what you want people to read, and a place for discussion and debate. And it's great for all those things. And the problem is they're going to lose people. And there are already celebrities who've said that they've gotten off there because it was too much and that it hurt them too deeply. It was reminders of things that they weren't wanting to revisit. You know, you saw in that video, Julie DeCaro, so brave to come out and speak about her own rape, and to have her reminded of that all of the time. I think we're getting to a point where we have to question, why are we so quick to want to defend hate? Why do we want to look at these things and say, just deal with it, instead of saying, why is it happening? Where is it coming from? Where is this deep-seated hate, particularly for women in sports? You know, if it's just that you don't want to see a diversity of voices and that you feel like this is a male space, we got to get past that. And it can't come to the point where me reporting on something or having a different opinion about some player's knee results in death threats.
Right.
It's not something we just shrug off and say it happens.
And don't follow me. Don't tell me I should get off Twitter. Don't follow me. There was a great quote I read from 2011. So when Twitter was much more so in its infancy, and it was a woman saying that a woman having an opinion on social media was like a short skirt. Like, it was all of a sudden this invitation to things and saying this was the excuse, the way people talk about a short skirt, sadly, in rape cases, that it was like she was putting herself out there for it, and it makes everything okay. And thinking about that, to me, is incredible. We're there to have a voice and an opinion. If you don't like it, turn it off or go away, or, you know, take my opinion on, not me. You know, take a stance that I don't know what I'm talking about because you think I don't know football because I didn't play. All right, I can handle that. And years ago, that used to be our problem. Don't tell me that. I would take that over some of these other comments even.
Obviously, young folks approach both of you. And I assume young women approach both of you and say, I would love to do what it is you do for a living. I feel as though when I've been asked about what I do for a living, and I always do put in at some point, you gotta have that thick skin. You're gonna hear about everything you've done wrong, even if you didn't do it. But obviously this is something else entirely. So first with you, Sarah, What do you say now? What do you say today to an aspiring young woman who wants to be you?
I actually have a young girl who just graduated and wants to get into the field. And over the course of the last couple months, as she's job hunting and kind of just paying close attention to my career as we become friends, she's sort of sadly lost her goal. And she said, I don't think I can do it anymore. I don't think I'm the kind of person that can deal with that stuff. And I tell her, I don't think that's true. I think that you'll realize that you can handle it and that it's gradual. You know, when you first start out, not that many people know who you are. So the support and the vitriol is limited. And then with each step you get and more high profile gigs that you get, the more people know you and the more people want to tear you down. So by the time you get to the point that I'm at, where you're hosting a national radio show or you're doing SportsCenter, you've gotten so used to it that you don't notice it as much anymore, which is unfortunate.
It's
but
awful.
You let it kind of roll off
it is just, that's awful. I know what you're saying.
You're immune
and
to
it's
it.
still awful to hear.
But I tell them that. I say eventually you get to the point where you are confident in your own abilities, you are validated in your own abilities by your coworkers, your peers, your viewers, the people that are positive, and it makes it easier to look at those comments and say, you're wrong. I do belong here. I am great at my job. And I'm not wasting my time believing any of the things that you're saying to me.
Yeah, and that's probably exactly why I said go ahead and tell me that I don't know about football because I didn't play. 20 years ago, or I wasn't doing this 20 years ago, but 15 years ago, that would have bothered me. And now I know that's not true, and I know that's not the case. So, I'd say to young girls, and I do when I meet them, especially in college, know your stuff. Go be you and go do the job that you want to do. Let your work speak for itself and don't worry about the other stuff. And I think some of the women that came before us maybe have the right idea, women and men, who aren't on Twitter and aren't on social media. I know it's a part of our job, but they seem to listen to it a lot less and seem a lot happier about that.
Absolutely.
So maybe in the beginning, if you can't handle it, don't do that yet. And just sort of get into your job and get to know who you are in this business and the kind of reporter or anchor or host or whoever you're going to be. Become that person first and then get online. We're going to deal with all of it. We dealt with it before Twitter. It's just 24/7 and so immediate now. If you want to do this, don't ever let that scare you away from it.
I have to say, it's great advice in a non-gender specific sort of way, but obviously it means so much more today. Dana, great piece. I'm glad that we could bring it. And
Sarah and Julie did the hard part.
Sarah, I have to say, again, I salute you and Julie both, my friend, and I really very much appreciate not just being with us today, but your existence at the center of this debate.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.